ladies and gentlemen, the 28th Prime Minister of Australia, Tony Abbott.
Well, David, thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for that very warm welcome as I kind of waddled my way to the it's wonderful to be here. It's wonderful to be amongst people who take our history seriously and who want only the best for our country. I am always delighted to attend Australians for Constitutional Monarchy events. I'm delighted to attend any event of people who support the Crown in our Constitution, because the Crown is something which has been with us every step of our national journey. So often we forget where we came from. We forget what has made us who we are. The essence of the conservative cast of mind is respect. Respect for everything that has contributed to the people that we are, to the nation that we have become. And as I said, the Crown was with us on the 26th of January 1788. The Crown was with us on the 25th of April 1915. The Crown has been with us in all the ups and downs of our national life, and it's rested lightly on our heads, and long may it continue.
Yeah.
Now, for those who don't respect tradition, the Crown is an easy target. You can say it's not Australian, even though it is entrenched in our Constitution, even though it has been in the background of every decision that we've made and everything that we've done. But it is an easy target. You can say it's something that resides overseas. You can say it's something that shackles us to another country. You can say that it entrenches an anachronistic hereditary principle. But the truth is, you cannot take the Crown out of our Constitution without changing our system of government in ways that we cannot predict and might not like at all. And you cannot remove something which has been a part of your history and your culture ever since the very beginning without doing violence to who you are. And this is the thing that most upsets me about all of those who so often without much thought identify as Republicans. It is a failure to respect that which has shaped us. It is a failure to appreciate how ill-considered change can do us enormous damage. And it's a failure to grasp that the process and the consequences of change of this nature can be very grievous indeed. I lament the fact that the Australian Labor Party no longer has the sense of history that it once did. Once upon a time, people on the left as well as people on the right cherished our connection with Britain, cherished the institutions and the values which had made us who we are and what we've been. It was the Labor Party's Prime Minister Andrew Fisher, for instance, who said back in 1914 that Australia stood with Britain to the last man and the last shilling. It was John Curtin, he of Australia Looks to America fame, who also said in 1944 that no country on earth corresponded more closely with this one than the motherland. And when he spoke of the motherland, he was obviously referring to the United Kingdom. We all know that 1975 was traumatic for the Labor Party, but in the end, 1975 and the Whitlam dismissal was a sign of the system working, not the system failing. Here was a Prime Minister who, against all precedent, was attempting to govern without the supply bills going through the Parliament And rather than some kind of coup against democracy, what happened then was the system working as it should to remove a Prime Minister who was acting unconstitutionally at the time. But what we now see is everyone who wants radical change, who fails to respect tradition, leaping on republicanism as one of those things that would help them get what they want. And what we've seen since 1999 and the defeat of the first Republican referendum is an attempt by those who don't respect our Constitution and our traditions to bring about change by trickery, because that's essentially what the current proposal from the constitutional vandals for a plebiscite before a referendum amounts to. It is change by trickery. The problem with a plebiscite, and let's not forget that that's what's been promised by the opposition leader in the first term of any Labor government. The problem with a plebiscite is that if it were carried, it would undermine the Constitution that we have without giving us anything in its place. And the reason why they are proceeding down this path is because the Republicans themselves are completely divided on exactly what kind of a republic they want. They can't decide whether it's a so-called minimalist republic or a maximalist republic. They can't decide on exactly what powers the President would have. They can't decide whether the President should be elected by the people, chosen by the Prime Minister, or appointed by a 2/3 majority of the Parliament. And if they had to resolve those questions, they would inevitably dissolve into irreconcilable tensions and warring camps. They would much rather have us focus on this simple idea: do you want a resident for president, if you like? Do you want an Australian head of state? Do you want to embrace this warm fuzzy idea? But what they present as a warm fuzzy idea is constitutional vandalism of the first order. There are many reasons why we should vote against a change of government in the first half of next year, but by no means the least of them is this shallow, superficial, but ultimately profoundly dangerous proposal from Bill Shorten to undermine our system of government via a plebiscite before people have worked out exactly what kind of a republic they would be prepared to live with. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't want to live under any one of them, because the system that we have is far from perfect, but it is much better than anything else, and there is nothing wrong with our Constitution that becoming a republic would fix. Now, David, I say all this by way of introduction to the real topic today, because I'm told that what I'm to speak about is another important issue of making the most of our country, the issue of water, dams, and giving our farmers a fair go. And I understand from my conversations with your convener, Professor Flint, that later today he'll be alluding to Section 100 of the Constitution. But I actually have an even higher authority than the Constitution. It's in fact the Holy Bible, which was given to me on the day I first became a minister in the Howard government. And of course, this is the Bible that I was sworn in on quite a number of occasions in the Howard government. And I'm looking at chapter 1 of Genesis, verse 28. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. Be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it. Now, our job is to make the most of this wonderful world that we have. And why shouldn't that mean putting a dam across a river so that we have water, not just while the river runs, but all the time? Why shouldn't we put a dam across a suitable river in a suitable place so that farmers don't just have to rely on the rain, but using God-given ingenuity, God-given intelligence, have water whenever they need it. Now, I regret that notwithstanding my constant assaults on what I described as the dam phobia, which has afflicted our country for the best part of 4 decades, we have not yet built any major new dams. I am pleased that my government was able to put some $100 million into new dam building in Tasmania. I'm pleased that one of the last things that Barnaby Joyce did as Deputy Prime Minister was to announce a major Commonwealth commitment to the new Rookwood Weir behind Rockhampton. So things are changing. They are changing slowly, but for change to go beyond good intentions into better actions, what we need is to make sure that the culture shifts away from the kind of green obsessions that we have had for too long. At the federal level, the Prime Minister or the Minister can say, yes, let's get cracking. But as all of you with experience of government know, land use decisions are normally matters for the state government. There are often local government considerations as well. All too often in remote Australia, there are Indigenous issues, there are various federal and state environmental legislations that need to be considered. So making it happen requires not just support from one level of government, it requires support from all levels of government and from the bureaucracies that administer so much of this legislation. So the answer is for all of us to keep talking all the time about what we expect of all levels of government. And essentially, what we need to do is to keep talking about the sorts of things that everyone wants: prosperous farmers, cheap food, exports of our high-quality agricultural products to the emerging markets to our north, and then make the statement of the obvious that this would be so much easier if we had more available water, because water is wealth and you can't grow anything without it. And if we keep focusing on that, eventually we'll get the changes that we need. Now, I'm going to sit down now and hand over to my friend and colleague, Alan Jones. But let me say before I do, that the Australian people have no better advocate than Alan Jones.